Let's shift gears dramatically after that intensity. For years now, I think we've found that a natural remedy like Echinaforce successfully combats colds and flu viruses in our family. And I constantly find myself asking, because I rely on it so much, what is it that actually sets this product apart? Well, it's the Echinacea plant. And why is it so effective? Well, Ewan flew all the way to Switzerland for a fascinating story of friendship, adventure, and a little bit of science behind this amazing remedy.
Up in the hill country of Teufen, we found the original home, clinic and gardens of Swiss physiotherapist Alfred Vogel. Here we met Dr. Andy Suter, who heads up the medical department at Bioforce, the company Alfred Vogel founded, which produces some of the world's leading natural healthcare products.
Andy, I almost can't believe that I'm sitting at the original space where Alfred Vogel created his magic with Echinaforce.
Yes, it's really amazing. I mean, even though I'm working now for 20 years for this company, anytime I'm up here I feel a certain magic, because this is really where everything started. And if you look around, it's amazing the strength and freshness of these herbs.
Now this is really a breathtaking garden. How many medicinal herbs are actually in this garden?
As much as I know, there are 120 species around that you could use and make a medication out of it. So it's really amazing also simply to look around and see what's there.
Now Echinaforce has been in my family for generations. My grandfather swears by it, passed down to my mom and dad, and eventually my wife and I, with our 2 kids, we use it on a daily basis now to support the immune system. But how does it actually work in your system?
About 20 years ago, we simply knew Echinaforce works. We knew that it really worked. And then we looked a bit deeper into it, and what is interesting, it has different modes of action. When you have a cold, this comes from viruses. And so we found out that it works directly against these respiratory viruses who wants to enter you and infect you. So really, Echinaforce is the strongest herbal treatment available worldwide to really act against this broad variety of viruses and act so strongly against it. It works on your immune system. On one hand, it's a bit an anti-inflammatory, but to the other hand, and that's much more important, it's immune modulatory. That means it modulates your immune system always to this side that it works best. It works also to a certain extent a little bit antibacterial. And all these combined together, that's the best you can have for prevention or acute treatment for a common cold.
If I would like you to help me put an argument at rest that I constantly have between myself and my wife with regards to our kids. Now, does having cold feet or wet hair put you at risk of getting a cold or a flu?
And first of all, it's interesting that you have the same discussions in South Africa than like in Switzerland. I think it's been an old family topic. What research says no, that there is no influence. But what really could be if you have 2 cold feet, you have a problem with the blood circulation, and that means that your immune cells cannot reach your peripheral endings of your body, so as to say. So therefore, then you may have an increased risk of an infection, because in your nose, for example, then the immune cells cannot reach there where they should. But in general, saying no, I actually wouldn't say there's really a direct link.
So we shouldn't worry as long as you have some Echinaforce?
Absolutely, yes. Down here, what you see, this is the Echinacea growing. It's now still young, so the flower heads are missing. But this is really originally how it starts with the Echinacea plant. And what we then take from here is, of course, the plant itself, everything growing above earth, but then also 5% of the root. And therefore we have then this mixture of 95% herb and 5% additionally of the root in it.
What is so unique about this 95-5 ratio, and how did Alfred Vogel come up with this ratio in the first place?
What he found out is by adding 5% of the root, this is really, in there are some substances which are called acrylamides. They are the main important substances really for the immune modulatory activities. So that means these substances really interact with the immune cells directly. And by just adding a little bit, so this 5% of root to Echinaforce, it makes it much stronger. And we found out in the upper part of the plant, so the herbs that we have, in there is in the majority the antiviral activity. It's really the fresh herb which is active. It is 10 times stronger than the dried herb. And here you really see that the strong things we take out of nature, we really put into a product as best as possible.
Now, to really ensure a top quality product at the end of the day, there's a couple of key factors that you need to take note of within this organically grown process. One of them is, of course, the soil, and I'm sure the climate as well. And this climate is phenomenal. You can feel that moisture in the air.
That's absolutely true. I mean, what you need foremost is really a very clean soil, which isn't polluted by fungus or pesticides or what have have you. And to have this, then you really can grow organically. Then to the other hand, we're really blessed with a quite good climate, you know, a lot of sun, sometimes, and then but a lot of humidity. But then we help also a little bit. So into the soil, we put a bit of clay in it, which absorbs the humidity, and to the other hand, it gives also a very good aeration to it.
And I think taking it back even further, how did Alfred Vogel get his hands on the echinacea plant?
That's a story of its own, you know, because Alfred Vogel didn't always live up here and think it up his whole world. He really went out into the world and looked at it. He made a really big journeys around the world. It was in the early 50s. He was in the United States, in South Dakota, where he met the Sioux chief, Ben Black Elk, and they became good friends. And echinacea wasn't that well known in Europe that time. And Ben Black Elk told him, this is really my main plant I work with, and gave him like a pot of seed or so as a gift. And Alfred Vogel brought it in here to Switzerland and really cultivated it. So what we're having here is really a Sioux echinacea from South Dakota.
There are different echinacea products out on the market, but what makes Alfred Vogel's Echinaforce unique compared to those?
It's a whole chain that we have, you know. First of all, the seed that we really know where it comes from. It's a very strong plant that we have here. Then secondly, this mixture, 95% of herb, 5% root, which is unique, and we really could scientifically shown that this really works best in the end. Then this difference between fresh plant and dry plant, so the fresh plant is really much more active. And then we have everything under control from quality side, you know, that we really can guarantee that the product has the same quality as any synthetic product on the market. You know, we have the same quality standards here in Switzerland given for this. And then of course the whole research behind that we have to really show how it works and that it works also clinically.
What Alfred Vogel instinctively knew has since been proven by extensive scientific research. Echinaforce is the strongest herbal treatment available to act against cold and flu viruses.
A. Vogel's Echinaforce is the world's strongest herbal product that's clinically proven to prevent and treat colds, flu, and their complications.